Good morning, Linux lovers. My name's Wimpy. Welcome to my world. This was originally recorded live on twitch.tv/Wimpy's World on the 23rd of September. If you're watching this on YouTube, please consider heading over to Twitch and giving us a follow. I'm having a cup of tea and I'm just testing some stuff out today. Made a couple of changes to my streaming setup and I thought I'd just go over that and make sure everything's behaving itself. So as is my usual, I will...
Thank you for the follow, Freddy_Latchance.
Thanks very much, Freddie. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by. Let's just send out a couple of messages to let people know that I'm doing this thing. So I stream exclusively on Linux, have done for some considerable time now. I use OBS and I use a StreamDeck application as well, and I've automated a whole bunch of stuff, and I've just changed my audio setup here and my StreamDeck setup here, so I thought I'd just go over that a little bit, just to sort of there's people are interested who are also using Linux, what I'm using and how I'm using it. And we looked at a new StreamDeck UI the other day, which isn't quite ready for sort of prime time use, but the one that I've been using for a while now, I've seen a bunch of improvements recently, and it's pretty decent. So I just thought I'd go over like how I've got things arranged there. Also looking for feedback on what other people are doing and what they've found useful. Morning, Paul. How are you doing? Thanks for stopping by again. Right, I'm pushing buttons. Maybe I should switch to a different view. So I've changed quite a lot. Hopefully you can hear me. That's the first thing. I did a very quick test earlier. Audio should be working. I have changed my audio interface. But I'm just looking at all the important things. Apparently stuff's working. So talking about audio interfaces, this is hello Mark. It always throws me that Twitch is muted by default. Does it remember what your last preference is? Because sometimes it surprises me when I expect it to be muted and it isn't. Right, so hello Yetiops, welcome back. Yes, I am using the Octava mic here and at home. So I bought a matched pair, which generally speaking people do because they want to mic up like overhead drums and they want mics with the same frequency response, they're for use in studios. But I just wanted a pair of microphones. I wanted one at home, one here. I wanted essentially the same setup, so it's easy for me to just get up and running. So the mic's the same and it's boomed in a similar way. It's just out of shot. In fact, I'm touching it now. It's just out of shot there. But I've changed a bunch of things with my setup here in the last week to make it more consistent with home. So one of the changes is the Octavas are in use here. I think I've been using those for about a week now here. I'm using the same arm to boom things just because they're really easy to work with. I'll go over all of that stuff. I've changed the lens on this camera to be the same as the one at home. I've done a little bit of color tweaking, which I probably need to do at home as well. Haven't done that yet. But then the other thing for consistency is I sold 2 StreamDecks. So I sold my original StreamDeck and a StreamDeck Mini. I think that's what it's called, the very small one. And I put that money towards, in fact, let's push the button. I put that money towards this here we go, to another big one. So I now have 2 StreamDeck XLs, one here and one at home. And the reason I did that is I spent quite a long time configuring my StreamDeck XL at home to do various types of streaming that I do, either here on Twitch or the game streaming where I use different frame rates and resolutions, or streaming for work. And because I'd got the smaller StreamDeck here, that configuration isn't compatible because the buttons are different. So I thought about I could invest hours and hours configuring the other smaller StreamDeck here, but actually the quicker solution was to sell some equipment and use the money to buy another one of these, and then I can use the same configuration at home and here. And so consequently, I now have the full configuration here with all of my setup, which is great. Welcome back, TC. Thanks for stopping by again. So with regards to audio interface, you can see it. So this is another change. I've recently changed the overhead camera. So I tried a couple. I think if you were here, you will have heard me saying bad words about the Razer Kaio, is that what they call it? Which was great on paper, but I think their wide angle specifications are off. I don't think it's as wide angle as they claim. And also brilliantly, there's a massive batch where you can't update the firmware, so it has a bunch of bugs that the firmware fixes, but they've got a load of cameras in the wild that are not compatible with their firmware updater, which I found out by filing a support ticket with Razer. Anyway, incensed by that one went back to Amazon, and I have this one, which is the AverMedia 513, and as you can see, nice wide, so I can get the whole desk in. And that's that was the last piece I needed so that I can start doing build projects here as well. So it may actually be easier for me to bring some of the projects I want to work on for builds and do them here at the weekend. Come over here one like Saturday morning or something. Good morning, Cuball, welcome. First time you've been able to catch one of the morning streams. Well, thank you very much for stopping by. And hey, camera, welcome back. How you doing? So this is the new audio interface. It's almost set up the way I want it to be. So this is an Audient Evo 4. It's got two XLRs around the back, which I will only be using one. It's got an instrument FET here, which generally speaking I won't be using, but I do sometimes plug a wireless microphone into the second inputs. So at home I have a different audio interface, which is bigger and slightly better, but it's too big for here. So I've got this, which is a smaller audio interface, but decent quality and relatively inexpensive, but does everything that the one at home does. So I'm not like missing out on features. So I can do the audio mix and set my volume and set on phantom power discreetly to each of the interfaces. And the one change I'm going to make is, instead of running out of the headphone jack, which goes to the Bluetooth transmitter for the earbuds, I'll bring a cable in and run the other speaker outs into the Bluetooth transmitter, just so all the cables go out the back and it's a little bit more tidy. When I start doing hardware builds, I don't want things like this protruding into the space and potentially, you know, crunching stuff. So yeah, so that's the main audio change, which is now obviously powering these. This green button here is quite nice. It's a smart gain setter, so that's quite good. It remarkably accurate as well, sets the gain perfectly in the sweet spot, which I was quite pleased with. So yeah, those are the main changes, I think. So this, which is now fully configured, and I'll get into that a little bit. And you know, I've run the cable underneath there, so I can move this where I need it to be for when I'm streaming, or, you know, put it out the way, you know, whatever I need. So that's the main change with all of that. And then the rigging over the last couple of weeks, I've simplified all of that a little bit. So I'd experimented with different rigging. In fact, I think I can show what I'm referring to here. Let's get used to pressing these buttons again. So this button here, hopefully, yeah, there we go. So this is how I have everything rigged up. So that's an Elgato, what you call it? It's a fixed arm here, and then it's got flex arms plugged into it to make that sort of shape for the mic to go on. So, and then clamped off the side of that, I have the a little small rig clamp, a short extender, a very short extender. My phone can't focus. I can't do anything about the fact that the phone won't focus. And then the webcam is, this is harder than it looks. The webcam's then attached to that, which gives me the overhead shot. So that keeps everything fairly tidy. And then there's the main camera, which is clamped to the monitor stand at the back there. And that's now got the same 16mm lens on it that I use at home, because it's just perfect for this sort of thing. So I had experimented with different lenses, and I'd even done a little lens hack of my own, which was fine but not great. So again, I've sold off a bunch of lenses so that I can just use the same equipment in both places. So Mark says, can I explain about my earbuds? Do they come with the transmitter, or is that a separate piece of kit? So yes, I can do all of these things. Let me just get something from the cupboards up here. So up here, let's get used to pushing this button. Up here are cupboards, sliding door cupboards, and in there I keep boxes of stuff. So let's let's have a look in the cupboards. So in here I have this box, which is what the earbuds came in, but I've also, it's what where I keep all of the audio knickknacks. So if I switch to the overhead view now, I can't remember how to do any of this. There, that one. Right, if I switch to plug that in so it doesn't run out of charge. So these are the earbuds I'm using. They're I went on a stream the other day and we talked a bit about this because somebody else asked, but they're the GTW 270 hybrids. Technically, well, I'll explain. There's the hybrids, which do come with a transmitter, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then there's the non-hybrids, which are exactly the same and come without the transmitter. So I've got a bunch of cables in here, various audio cables for hooking different stuff up, but let me show you what these things look like, and I'll get this out as well. So I'll just put all of that away because that's just, you know, cables when I decide to change things. So this is the transmitter that the hybrids come with, and it's a USB-C transmitter, and you can just plug that into your PC.
Follow Vortex Box.
And this is an aptX low latency Bluetooth transmitter, and they're pre-paired with the phone. Now I've got two of these because I also and I'll explain why in just a moment. I also have two sets of the earbuds, and there's the charging cases there connected to a charging station. So I'm wearing one pair at the moment. There's one pair on charge. They last about 5 hours. So these are quite cool. So you plug this into a Linux PC and it works. Plug them into a Nintendo Switch or a games console and it works as well. So the way that these earbuds are marketed are as gaming earbuds because aptX low latency. So you can buy them, you can plug this into your PC, and you can choose this as the audio output device, and it all just works. And it works very, very nicely. And it's great if you want to plug it into, you know, Android phones and games consoles and what have you. It's that's pretty cool stuff. But what I do is something else. And don't get me wrong, these work very well. But when you're streaming and podcasting, and Mark and Yannick, who are in the chat, will understand like how this goes, you want to be able to monitor yourself. So, you know, my audio interfaces, this new one and the others that I've used in the past, all have the ability to monitor yourself, and you can do that here. I've got a mix button which I can push, and then using this dial I can actually choose how much of myself I can hear coming back. So that's how I can hear in my head my own voice. But that obviously needs to be low latency, because, or zero latency ideally. So that's what I'm using. These EPOS audios, EPOS are the organization that were basically the consumer part of Sennheiser. You may have heard recently that Sennheiser has sort of broken up its consumer audio products from its pro audio products. So Sennheiser will only be doing pro audio, and EPOS audio are who will be doing what was the Sennheiser consumer audio stuff. So these are excellent quality. I mean, they're terrific. So to explain all of this in a bit more detail, there's a few bits to this puzzle. One is an audio interface. This headphone jack goes to switch to this camera again, goes to this little device down here, and that is a Bluetooth transmitter. And again, I can't make the phone focus when I'm doing this web thing. Hopefully when my iPhone arrives, this will improve. So that is an aptX low latency capable transmitter. aptX low latency has a latency of about 30 milliseconds. So that's important because as I'm speaking, my monitored voice in my head doesn't have any latency, doesn't have any perceivable latency. And Yannick, I'm going to get to your question in just a moment, because I was doing some latency testing yesterday and figured a thing out. So this is an extremely low latency thing. I can podcast. I have been podcasting like this for some considerable time with different earbuds and headphones, but they've all been aptX low latency. Now that particular Bluetooth transmitter turns out to be the critical piece in the puzzle, because I have tried maybe half a dozen aptX low latency transmitters, and they all have some additional latency, which means there is a perceptible difference between when I'm speaking and what I can hear in my head, and it's a little bit stilted and off-putting. That transmitter, for whatever reason, doesn't introduce any additional latency overhead, and consequently it's the only one that I can really recommend now, and I've tried a bunch of the others. So do I hear it coming back from the PC? No, because, so first let's just, I think I've explained all that. If any of that's not clear, ask me questions about that whole setup, and I'll be happy to try and clear up any poor explanations. Good morning, Yannick, and also good morning, Win8 Linux. So Win8 Linux is asking how I get the StreamDeck working with Linux. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. I'm going to go over all of that, and I'll explain in detail how I'm doing that. Once you know how, it's not difficult, but it's knowing how, yeah, with all of these things, but it's quite straightforward once you get into it. So Yannick, no, I don't hear myself through the PC. I'm doing all of the monitoring in the through the audio interface. So it's the zero latency audio monitoring in the interface that is providing that feedback in my earbuds, which is why I can use the monitor mix here in order to choose, you know, how loud I wish to hear myself, you know, in with the mix of the desktop audio from the PC. And this audio interface does it. My Focusrite had it. My Behringer UMC 202 had that capability, and my SSL, whatever SSL I've got, the solid state logic, that has it too. I've since sold the Focusrite and the Behringer in order to pay for this, which actually was quite reasonably priced. It was £89 and I'm extremely pleased with this. It's excellent. So yeah, I sold those two to get this one because it's a bit more compact and better quality. It has a very low self noise. So that was the main reason for the change. So Yannick says he's weak, succumb to the Voice of the Mermaid song. I bought, oh, you bought a pair of them. Okay, how have you found them? I really like these. These are the, prior to this, I had Sennheiser Momentum wireless earbuds, the first generation, because they support aptX low latency, but the second generation do not. Now, with regards to this whole audio interface thing, this is obviously because I'm running an XLR mic and what have you. If you just want to, you know, use low latency earbuds, then the hybrids come with this. Now, the non-hybrid versions of the GTWs come in exactly the same box. They're called the same thing, they just don't have the word hybrid on the end. And they're just the earbuds. But the earbuds are still aptX low latency capable. They are the same earbuds. So you can either get the hybrids and use this, or, you know, do what I've done in this case and create this thing. Now, this is more flexible for podcasting and streaming. If all you care about is you want to do playing games and you want earbuds and you want, you know, wireless and low latency, then these things have everything you need. Or you can get this, and this is a kit from Creative Labs, and it's like just the it's just the transmitter. So this is a Bluetooth transmitter, and that button there, when you push it, changes a light, and you can change what protocol you're using from aptX HD for higher fidelity audio, or aptX low latency. And it also comes with an adapter for plugging into Xbox controllers, and that's a microphone, and it can do the whole thing. And again, this works on Linux. So if you're only after an aptX transmitter and you're not trying to do microphones and XLR and all of that stuff, then there's a couple of these, you know, options that exist that are fully Linux compatible, and they work very well. These are as low latency as that transmitter that I have round the back, but so that's, you know, favorable. So let's have a look here. So Yannick says, when I do that with my Xenix 802 USB, I can hear myself, but not whatever comes back from the PC. Maybe it's time to change the audio interface. Ah, right. Okay. So does that audio interface have a zero latency monitor in it? Or not? Hey Takov, I'm just going through like my very esoteric setup. So maybe it's your jack configuration then, Yannick. Could it be that? Could it be jack that's causing it to always come out the PC as well? Oh, but it's either monitor or PC audio. Right, okay. So this, the Behringer 202 HD, the Focusrite Solo, Scarlett Solo, which I don't recommend, by the way. I can get into that if you want to. And my solid state logic, I forget what it's called. I think it's just called the solid state logic 2. They provide a mix. So what I can hear in my head is what's going out over the desktop audio and my voice mixed together. And they all have this option where I can choose the volume of those things and how that mix is represented. So I can hear it all, as you should be able to hear it. You know, what's going out on stream is what I can hear, but I'm not listening to the streamed audio, if you know what I mean. Oh, yes. In fact, yes, these are my new mugs. This is also new today, as is the shirt. So Slim AI shirt and a large Slim AI mug. and in fact a second large Slim AI mug. So more tea for the morning chat, which is always good. Because my colleagues are all mostly from America, apparently these are 12-ounce mugs, which are however much 12 ounces is, I have no idea. So Yannick says that he can monitor himself using Jack, and you can do that using Pulse Audio as well, which is what I was doing. So when I was first setting up this office, and I was using these, you know, the transmitters that come with the earbuds. I have to block my eyes out, otherwise it won't focus. No, it's just going to find my face. I was also using the loopback on Impulse to monitor myself. That works too, but it's not as flexible because I can live, you know, change this. Like, for example, I'm just thinking to myself, the volume's a bit quiet, so I can just hit this, bump the whole thing up a little bit, you know, doing that Impulse whilst you're streaming, not so convenient. So I try and move all of that, like audio handling, off to discrete devices because they can be managed separately from the rest of it. So yeah, aptX low latency. I saw Optimum Tech did a video about how they've gone to earbuds for game streaming recently, but not wireless, they're using wired. And I really should like make an actual video about this, like how to do this, because I hate being tethered. So I've been using aptX low latency, this solution or something like it, I've been using for about 3 years now, and started mostly for when I was, you know, working, well, as we all work from home, but before, you know, the event, I'd started doing this at home just to be more comfortable in my working day, so that if you're in a meeting and you decide it's time for a cup of tea, you can just mute your camera, go downstairs, make a cup of tea and come back, but you can hear everything the whole time, so it doesn't break up the continuity of the conversation. So welcome Esme, how you doing? Well, I'm glad you were able to make it. So who was it? There was somebody here, it was Win8 Linux, I think, was saying, how am I doing the Stream Deck thing? So let's just put those bits to one side for a moment. So let's go back to the overhead view. I need better icons on here to distinguish these. That one. There we go. So here's the Stream Deck. And in fact, I've got enough play. Can I get it any closer than that? Not really. But anyway, hopefully you can see there. So there's a bunch of icons on there. This is a page for running this stream. And if you've seen a Stream Deck before, you know how it works. You push buttons and things happen. So if I push this button, it switches the transition, you know, and if I which one's this? This is my usual, I'm going to do some coding overview, and then this is the overhead camera. So push a button, it changes the scene in OBS. So I'm using a bit of software that obviously configures all of that. And then I've got some macros. So these two blue ones, that's my start and end, and that does a whole bunch of automation to actually bring the stream up. And I'll just go over what's in there. And then I've also got, you won't be able to hear me for a moment, but I've also got a couple of macros down here for, uh-oh, everything's gone wrong. So a couple of those. Have a couple of those as well for, you know, when things don't go well. And then that there is a screenshot button. Smile. So that's just taken a screenshot, which I can sometimes use for making thumbnails. So that's the Stream Deck. You've seen them before, but this one's all configured under Linux and using Linux. So there's a couple of bits to doing that. And we went over this a couple of streams ago, but let's just bring it up. Let's move to the code window. So I'll bring the UI in. Here it is. Let's just minimize that. So this is the Stream Deck tool that I'm using. and a couple of streams back, sometimes last week, I think, we looked at this and cherry picked a couple of fixes and features from this project, and that's the build I'm using. They animated GIF stuff, if you were here for that one, that doesn't actually work properly, so I've removed that from the thing. But this one has the prettier help and about dialogue. It just fixes the UI a little bit. But most importantly, I've chosen this one here, which is the auto dim. So after 30 minutes, it will turn the backlight down on the Stream Deck rather than it being at 100% the whole time. So those are the main two things. But the actual upstream project has improved considerably in recent times. And I think the killer feature, this is going to sound so lame, I'm so excited about this, but its killer feature is that we have Stream Deck, the ability to configure the buttons. Let's just do standard clarity, normal. Let's just grab that one. I can just drag that icon onto there. Now that seems like an obvious thing, but that has only recently landed. Now that's extremely useful because before you used to have to navigate through the file picker and it doesn't remember where you last were. So you're constantly going and picking the same thing. So this is great. You can just drag all the icons around and, you know, sort of set your layups out quite quickly and then get into the business of configuring the feature behind each button. So I absolutely love that. And now we've also got a delete the image button. Now there's a branch of this, or rather a fork, which is based on a pull request of this that adds copying, pasting buttons around. But that's a bit janky. I'm actually considering taking some of the work that other people have started and then submitting them as pull requests that do these discrete features like copy and pasting buttons. I don't know, I think, so the original developer, I think, has kind of lost interest, and then quite recently somebody else has clearly like said to them, well, I'll like maintain it, and they're keeping on top of like the pull requests a little bit, but they're still a bit behind like the good stuff. So what I did recently, was this. So this is the project. So here are some pull requests. For this one here, which is the dimming, I said, thanks for working on this. I merged this pull request into a local build and it works great. And then yesterday, this is the guy who seems to be like merging the things. I've said, I think this is ready to be merged, to try and like help that, you know, I think this is of good quality for whatever my opinion is worth. And then similarly this one as well. This has a bunch of little UI fixes and I did the same thing. Let them know I think this one's good enough. And then for some of the others, I've like given commentary to the authors to say, you know, I think these things should be changed. Now, I think there's a bigger bug with this one, which I need to look into. So I've been trying to, that's an easy way to sort of participate in a project to try and help, you know, confirm that a pull request is of decent quality. It's Python, Yannick. It's Python and cute. And I have got some other patches from an old branch of my own that I need to put into the, need to contribute to the project. So I think I've got to the point where I feel like I use this such a lot that I should probably put a bit of effort in behind it. So that's the project, and a couple of videos ago there's how I install it using virtual environments for Python. So that's how it's all running. And then in terms of how it's configured, so if I go to page 1, this is what my main page looks like. These are buttons to change my streaming configuration. So if I look behind this, it runs this command here, OBS Twitch 1080p 30. So if we go and look at that, I think I can look at this. Scripts streaming, OBS Twitch 1080p 30. Yeah, okay, so let's just make that a bit bigger and then I'll explain what's going on here. So this was a means, because I sometimes do game streaming and sometimes I do things like this. I stream at different resolutions and what have you. Why can't I grab the edge of that? Am I in the wrong? Let's just... There we go. So this basically says set the scene collection in OBS, which is all of the scenes and sources and what have you, to my one called Wimpy's World. And then it changes the profile name, which is things like what your stream key is, the resolution that you're streaming in, some of the audio stuff, encoding and what have you. So it switches to a profile that's for my Twitch account streaming at 1080 30. And then because I'm streaming to Twitch, I use the same layout, the same scenes in OBS for YouTube. Not that I stream on YouTube very often these days, for YouTube and Twitch. So then what I do is I go through. Okay, let's just actually put this in an editor. And make that a little bit smaller. Oh, come on. Let's make that a bit smaller. There we go. So what this does here is where I have YouTube subscribe animations, when I'm streaming on Twitch, it basically turns those off. So it just sets the visibility of those sources to off, so that when I stream on Twitch, you don't see YouTube animations. And then similarly, I have a common set of chat overlays, and it turns off the chat overlays for YouTube, makes them invisible, but then makes the chat overlays for Twitch visible. So this is a way I can have a single set of OBS scenes, some of which have different sources for YouTube and Twitch, and this automates the toggling. So when I start streaming, I've lost, there it is. I can push this button and I know it's going to be correctly configured for the thing that I'm about to do. So that's sort of a whole bunch of setup automation, which saves me a bunch of time. I don't have to go through a bunch of drop downs and toggle a bunch of scenes and things in OBS. It just does what I need it to do. So yeah, so when Linux says it's PyQ, which is nice, and it should make it easy to contribute to. Yes, I think so. And there's definitely, you know, loads of room for an improvement in that project as well. So you will have seen from that script that I'm using this thing called OBS CLI. And that's a command line utility that talks to the OBS WebSocket. And that's what I'm using to drive OBS remotely. So instead of trying to send key presses, which doesn't work very reliably because OBS has lots of key bindings, it's actually using the network. Now, of course, that's all on the same machine, but at home I have a tablet and that has a graphical UI to the OBS WebSocket. So I have a touch, you know, device that I can poke at things and change stuff. And then like Let's Play and Let's Code. Oh, they just switch pages. So this is the page that I'm using at the moment. So if we take a look at like this this start dev one, for example, that's interesting. Yeah, start dev. So don't need another window, we've got one. So if I cat OBS start dev stream, this does let's edit it again, because we get syntax highlighting. It's a little easier to see what's going on. So this is a bit like that other thing. This automates a bunch of stuff. So I showed this the other day as well. So MWCap info is a tool for my capture card on my home machine. So it says, well, if that's available, then let's do the capture card configuration. So this is the button that I push. Let me just be clear. This button, when I think I'm ready to go, I push this button on the Stream Deck and it brings the stream up. So it configures the capture card. It moves my Spotify over to a dedicated audio sync called music. And that's so that I can mix multiple audio sources. And it does the same for Discord, because when we game stream, we converse over Discord, so it moves the Discord audio over to a discrete audio source, and I can then mix that discreetly inside of OBS. It then sets the scene to basically a blank scene, sets a notification so I can see on screen it's now about to set the audio levels, and it sets Spotify audio to 0. Sets the game audio to 75, and then these are my discrete syncs. So game to 75, music to 100, and Discord to 100. And the reason I set the game audio to 75 is that you know, quite often game audio is really loud. So I have already pre-configured like the popular games I play to output over this game audio device sync. And then we use Obs Cli to turn on streaming. So at that point, I'm like looking at my Twitch dashboard to see is the stream coming up, and it starts a local recording as well. So every time I stream, I make a local recording, and then it sends another notification that I see on screen to say, well, the stream has started, and then it goes to sleep for 10 seconds. And in that time, I can actually look at the Twitch dashboard and I see my stream, you know, coming up with just the sort of backdrop of stickers. And then it switches to this scene called Intro Dev. And Intro Dev has a whole bunch of automation built into it within OBS itself using the advanced scene switcher. So OBS then knows when that plays that it should play the video stinger, and when that stinger is completed, it automatically transitions to this view. So that starts the whole stream and you know, makes everything happen. And then as that initial stinger has run, it then tells my little Spotify script to, it's not set the volume to 35, it will fade the volume up to 35% and also pick a random track from the playlist that I've currently got selected. So that's what starts the music and fades the music bed up behind me. So all of that's automated, so I don't have to be sliding volume sliders around. I have two buttons to push. One, what's the type of stream I'm about to do, and another, which is start the stream. So that's how, you know, all of that works. Hope that makes sense. And yeah, this is the tool that I use to do that. And then you can see here I've got this button of looks like graphs. If I push that, I have a whole bunch of volume settings. So for example, we've got music volume there. So if I just push this, if I push this one, I'm over the 45, I'll go to the overhead overhead view so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So if I hit the graph button here, I can hit volume 50 on the music. Whoop, and you should hear Spotify fade up. And there we go. So it's faded up. It's probably too loud. So I'll hit 35, duck the audio back down. And then I have the same here with a bunch of what looks like Steam icons. And this is various volume presets for the game. And I can also bring up like the audio mixer, and I've got the same for Discord down the button, and then a button here to go back to my main control for the current stream that I'm doing. Yeah, so it is very much configured for my specific needs, but I think, you know, with the OBS CLI tool and this StreamDeck tool, I think most people can, you know, automate a whole bunch of stuff in OBS, no problem. Yes, the T icon is for when I need to take a break, which I've only ever used once. We did it one evening a couple of weeks ago. I was getting thirsty, so I went and got a beer from the fridge downstairs. Hey, King Egypt. So hopefully that sort of explains how it all works. And then this camera here happens to be connected using a Camlink 4K, which I don't know if they're still this price, but they were down to £82 recently on Amazon. So I got one of those for this camera instead of one of those cheap like £5 ones that I was using. And also that coincided with proper Linux support landing for the Camlink 4K as well. So yeah, that's the basic setup. I'm glad it's all working, because there was quite a lot changed over the last couple of days, and you record things locally to make sure it's working, but you can never be sure until you actually do it live. But it appears to be going. I'm going to have to watch the replay. Just arrived. Yeah, morning, Graham. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so I've just gone over like the various bits. If you've been here before, some of this you may have heard before. I'm more than happy to answer these questions again. And also, this is kind of a mental dress rehearsal, because I want to make like a pre-recorded, succinct video covering some of these topics, which I'll stick on YouTube. So it's actually quite good to hear the questions and think about answering the questions, because it will mean I'll have a better sort of coverage of the sorts of things people want to know when I make a pre-record. So hopefully it won't be missing important questions and answers that people have, because you've asked a bunch of questions whilst I've been doing this. So I think that's the majority of it. And I have to say, since the StreamDeck software got updated, it's pretty viable. And at home I've got some Elgato key lights. I don't need them here because they've got a massive LED panel above my head. But at home I have key lights. And again, they're, in fact, let's do no, not that one. This one here. If we go to the home screen, I have a light bulb button here. And then you can see here, I have two key lights to the left and the right of me, and I'm using another tool, which is a command line key light client. And I've just got a bunch of things to turn them on and set the sort of color, the brightness and the warmth of the light. So there we go. That's kind of it, really. So show me the phone cam Show me the phone cam. That's quite easy, actually. So I think this is what you're referring to. I do have... Let's just bring the thing up here, and then let's just point that there and do that. So this should kick in. There we go. So that's the phone cam. And I'm hoping that when I get the iPhone, this will actually be in focus as opposed to perpetually blurred. So this is using what was OBS Ninja, now known as Video Ninja. It also handles this stuff as well. Look, it does all of that. It's pretty good. I like it. I should probably make more use of this because it's like dead handy. If it was in focus, it'd be even more helpful. So yeah, this is Video Ninja, and it just does share the camera. You go to the URL video.ninja in your browser on your phone, say share the camera, and I used the balance profile, but then in OBS, if you read the Video Ninja documentation, it's the client side pull, so the OBS side, you can instruct the phone what resolution, frame rate and bitrate to use. I found that the defaults don't work very well, so I have a URL. Let me just see if I can... I can't do this. I can't bring this up, unfortunately, as I'm doing it today, as I'm doing it now. But you just embed a browser source into OBS Ninja, and that camera feed appears in OBS. So that's the basics, but yes, I will do a video on that. And my understanding is that that works on iOS and Android. So there's no cables or USB debugging or apps required. You just use the browser on the device. It says shift left. Let's yeah, it just won't focus. I touch it and it just doesn't do it, but it says shift left. Yeah, you just can't make that out. It's just terribly out of focus, and I don't know why. Well, I think I do kind of know why, but it's just frustrating that it doesn't focus correctly. Yeah, it's really out of focus. Yeah, I'm hoping that the new phone might help with that. And I have considered doing the whole action cam thing, but then you have to have a whole Nginx server, and you know, this is way more convenient. I mean, the latency is not too shabby either, really. It's within like a quarter of a second, so good enough. Yes, it is shift left, as in that. Yes, exactly. It's one of our slogans from work. Oh, you can't join Discord from the link in. Okay, try this, Win8Linux. Try wimpysworld.io/Discord. That should work. Yeah, you have to have a Discord account to join Discord. I assume that you have a Discord account already, but I believe if I put it in chat, try that instead. Does that work? If not, I'll yeah, I need to take a look at 8-bit verses as well. Okay, well I'll take a look and see what's going on there. Does that link work, Win8Linux? If that works, and I'm a bit confused, but I'll look at that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So yeah, I think that covers sort of the most recent changes. I think other than changing a cable, I think that will be it for now. The only thing to know about this is that when you have a configuration for a stream, if you've got two of them and they're the same, it embeds the model serial number in the config. So when I imported my configuration from home into this one, nothing showed up. But all I had to do is just edit as like the third line in the file is the serial number, which you can see from the app itself. There is the serial of the device. So I just overtyped that in a copy of the file, and it imported just fine. So I'll probably just write a little script that automatically injects the home and let's call it work serial numbers, so that I can have a single config that works on both devices. It was the *** that didn't work. Not sure what that means exactly, Winate Linux, but are you working now? So what bracket have you used to mount the camera? Okay, I can answer those questions, no problem. 1 second, I have an example one. So there's two parts to this. Let's just move to here. So this is a small rig flex arm. Let's go to the overhead view actually. So that's a small rig flex arm, which has got two what are these quarter inch or something, or one, I don't remember them. It's all inches. I don't pay much attention. But regular screws that you can put into the base of things. So that's the flex arm. You can make all of these things rotate in every which way, and then you tighten that off to lock it, and then it's rigid. So for the camera, let's do this and that. So for the camera, it's a little bit out of focus, but there's what you can see at the back there is the back of the monitor stand, and I have a small clamp, and then attached to that is one of these flex arms. So that's a flex arm, and the camera is attached to the flex arm, which is clamped to the back of the monitor stand. So that's how the camera is attached just above the monitor on that flex arm. And the overhead camera uses the same clamp. So this is the clamp, so you can see in a bit more detail, albeit blurred AF. But that's the small clamp. They're made by a company called Small Rig, and I've got a short arm here, which the webcam for the overhead view is attached to. So that's how I've done it. And then the mic, this is an Elgato, this bit here is an Elgato fixed arm, so that's solid, which obviously just clamps onto the shelf here. And then these segments 1 and 2 are from an Elgato flex arm kit, which I also use at home, and I had spare segments for, so was able to just reuse some segments that I had left over from my one at home. But I really like these flex arms. They're super useful. I use these for attaching my Elgato key lights. I've got a couple of shelving units, metal shelving units, and I have these clamped onto that, and then the light on the end. And they're very easy to take down and put up and what have you if you don't want them out the whole time. But these are cheap. These are like 10 quid, I think, something like that. I know, relatively cheap for what they are, but they're solid. Once they're clamped down, they're completely solid, so they're quite good. 3/8, yeah, 3/8, and the clamp has the both sizes, the 3/8 and 1/4 screw-in hole, so you can put different sized bits into it. So yeah, that's what I use for that. And I bought quite a few of those. So when I started out learning all of this stuff, I bought one of these and I was like, oh, that's so useful. So I think I bought 4 in the end, and 4 clamps. And this is the only bit that I have left that I'm not using now, because obviously I've got some at home and I've got this one here. But yeah, it's super useful. Right. Okay, hopefully that's that. Okay, good. Glad you were able to join Win8 Linux. I'll have to look at why. So did you see something from the Stream Elements bot that said join our Discord and that didn't work? Okay, well I'll have to investigate. And I will be looking at 8-bit verses as well, because I know that kind of has languished a little bit, and I need to figure out what's going on there. So there's a little look at, you know, the various bits I use to make OBS sort of do what I need to do on Linux. Okay, thanks Win8 Linux, that's great. Yeah, I'll get to that. Thank you for posting in the Discord, and that'll help me figure it all out. So Qball says, yay, looking forward to 8-bit verses. I'm not saying 8-bit verses is coming back. I will make sure that 8-bit verses, all the assets for 8-bit verses are reinstated and working again. I think the website's not functioning. I mean, I'd love to do it again. That was brilliant. That's what got me into all this OBS nonsense. I mean, I'd love to go back and rework the 8-bit verses set now. Now, based on what I know now, no, it's never going to be 16-bit verses. That was the whole point. It was me and Popey fighting over which was best, the Spectrum or the Commodore 64, and inevitably it was always the Commodore 64. Hope he's not here this morning. Yeah, I don't know. It was something that we'd been talking about between us, you know, obviously, you know, we're friends, and we'd been talking about doing it for ages. So actually bringing 8-bit verses to fruition took a lot of effort. I think we'd been planning it for 9 months. And when you think we only did, what, 10 episodes, something like that? Wasn't very many, maybe not even 10. But it took 9 months to figure out how to do it. And that was sort of where our interest in OBS came from, because it was getting things like browser sources to work was a key part of getting it going. I did a bunch of work. We tried loads of different solutions on how we could do cooperative streaming. If you've ever seen it, there's a YouTube channel for it. So if you don't know what we're talking about, go and find the 8-bit versus YouTube channel and watch one. It was more complicated to do than it may first appear, because Popey is in his house playing a retro game on a computer in his house, but I'm streaming it and able to react live to what he's doing. So we actually wrote our own simple streaming protocol for doing retro game streaming site to site, or point to point in actual fact, to embed into OBS to make all of this stuff happen. And then when I was playing the game, Popey needed a means to see it, and he couldn't be watching Twitch because that's like 3 seconds behind. So we created all of this technology to actually like make it work, where we could play and share games live from my machine to his machine. But I think we could make it a lot more streamlined now. And I'd certainly love to do it. That was a lot of fun, and I miss it. And it's a 1.5 years since we did the last one, because we did it in the off season of one of the Ubuntu podcast off seasons. but we first devised the idea sitting on a plane flying to somewhere in America. And then it wasn't even over engineering, Yannick. There was no other way to do it. And the solution still stands up, although I found another network streaming protocol, an adapted simple stream to support that. But I've learned so much more about OBS in the intervening time. I could make it a lot more slick and a lot easier to operate. It was, our presentation was a bit stilted. We had all of these loading screens, if you ever saw it, you know, 8-bit, you know, Commodore 64 and Spectrum loading screens. At which point we were doing stuff behind the scenes to actually, like, you know, attach the bits of wet string and blue tack that were connecting our two houses together to, you know, get these games to work. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Cuball. Yeah, in fact, the penultimate episode is out today. So 3 o'clock UK time today, the penultimate episode goes out, and this time next Thursday is the last episode. So yeah, we've recorded them, so I know how it ends. I wrote what is the last line. We don't script things, we put notes together, but I wrote what is the last line said on the Ubuntu podcast. And when I heard it said, I did think, nah, this is a bit sad. So what happened to that Ubuntu podcast title? Does that say, sorry? Tile. I'm not, what do you mean when Linux? I'm not sure what that means. Hey, Dan Simmons, spoiler alert. Yeah, well, I hopefully haven't spoiled anything. I haven't said what it was, what was said. So what will happen to that tile? Oh, okay. Well, listen to today's episode and you'll know what that's for. You were paying attention. So, yes, Win8 Linux has spotted that on the home screen there is a button here that says Ubuntu Podcast. And there, of course, is 8-bit versus. I've got a whole StreamDeck configuration just for 8-bit versus, so I think I was only using the mini when we had 8-bit versus, and I used every page it supported.
Follow Tess_T_Culls.
Thanks very much, Tess. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, that, if you listen to today's episode of Ubuntu Podcast, you'll know why there's an Ubuntu Podcast button just there. There we go. There's a little tease for you. So, hey Vince, how you doing? Welcome back. And Dan, welcome back. I still hope for an Ubuntu Podcast Top Gear moment where someone new from the Ubuntu community comes along to make it live on. Yeah, that could happen. I think my personal feeling on that is that the Ubuntu podcast could live on, and you know, another group of people could do it, but I don't think it should strive to be a continuation. I think it should be something new. You know, it should be, you know, the Ubuntu podcast, but it should be new people doing it in a new way. It shouldn't, because it's not going to be the three of us, or, you know, Laura or Simon or Tony, or, you know, anyone that's, you know, worked on the Ubuntu podcast over the last 14 years. So yes, it could live on, but I think it should be its own thing. Penguin podcast when? Maybe never. That button will be used for the live action video version of Ubuntu Podcast. Oh, you're not far off the mark there. Not far off the mark. Yeah, but listen later. 3 o'clock it'll be out. Right, so what was this then? Yannick says, do you know what the difference is between the StreamDeck and the StreamDeck Mark II? Yes, it is just a change in the housing. So the original StreamDeck had like just the front plate and this little flappy thing to prop it open. The StreamDeck Mark II basically looks like a small one of these, where this housing is a bit more robust and is attached by magnets. So the StreamDeck Mark II is like this one but smaller, as opposed to, I didn't much like the flappy thing that the original StreamDeck had. So yeah, that's the difference. It's just better in the way that it's presented. And you know, like this one, you could take that off entirely and you can, you know, lay it down as a flat thing. So that's basically it. Right, a magnet for a stand. So that's where the Elgato markup comes from. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much these buttons must cost, because they're surprisingly high resolution. Color reproduction is decent. So, yeah, I don't know. Some of the Elgato products I think are quite reasonably priced. So, the $20 in price then. Yeah, it's definitely a better stand. I can't say whether it's worth the $20 or not. I think my biggest regret is I've now owned every kind of Stream Deck. I've been through them all. I started with the Mini. That was a bad idea. It's just too small. Because you always need to have at least one button to get you back somewhere or to go somewhere. You really only get 5 buttons. There's not a lot you can do with 5 buttons. So that was a mistake. So then I got the regular sized one, and again I just ran out of space. Now this one, you know, you'll have seen I've got gaps in some of the layouts. So I've got a load of unused buttons on my main screen here. That's fine. But then on my actual things, I've got buttons to spare, but then some of these control surfaces, they're fully populated. Like when we do Let's Play, and I want to excuse me, set up the players, you know, I needed loads of buttons to configure all of the different people on the different quadrants of the screen. And that's all done with there's my daughter. Always remember my daughter is cool, is what that says. Let's do that. She's hacked my Stream Deck. So I'm not using all of the buttons on these, but if I was putting this on a regular sized one, there wouldn't be enough buttons to do what I have. So I think that although they're expensive, I would start with the big one, because it's unlikely you'll outgrow it. Whereas I've outgrown the previous models in next to no time. Are the pictures of everyone? Yeah, they are. It's exactly what they are. So in fact, let's do it this way. Let's do the view. I really need to change the icons here, so there. No, that's the wrong one. Code Cam. So this is it. So if I go to Let's Play and I do the players button, there we go. So this is Yannick, and the numbers represent what quadrant on the screen I'm going to put them in. So I can hit Yannick on quadrant 1, Eric on quadrant 2, and Monica on quadrant 3, and I can just live change. And behind the scenes, you can see here, it's using a script, OBS guest player, and then the name of the player. And that behind the scenes is using OBS CLI to basically say, in quadrant 1, make everyone invisible except for Yannick, and make Yannick visible. And so that way I can very quickly, just as people join, live mix them into the camera view. If you've never seen one of our racing ones, I think there's one on this Twitch channel that's still current. You'll get the idea. We do, you know, 4-player quadrant views. Make Yannick more visible. So yeah, that's it. Right then. So what's this? I've been wondering whether a programmable keyboard would make a reasonable substitute for a Stream Deck. So let's talk about reasonable substitutes for a Stream Deck, because you raise a good point. So if you have a Raspberry Pi and a touchscreen kit, then Yannick, who is here in chat, has been working on a project called Streamberry, which is basically a Stream Deck built using a Raspberry Pi. So that is a potential solution. So if you're not in our Discord, Graham, come and join. Yannick is there. You can ask questions. Yannick's done a couple of streams about Streamberry. Is it ready for use yet, Yannick, or is it still being built? So that's one option. And as you say, Graham, the other option is a programmable keyboard, or just a keyboard.
Thank you for the follow, Giuliano_Barboza.
Thanks very much, Giuliano, and welcome to the stream. So using that OBS CLI that I was talking about, you know, the little command line tool, you combined, I've obviously used simple shell scripts to basically create macros to do a bunch of stuff. And so if you were to bind a shell script that is calling several different things with OBS CLI, you can do some quite sophisticated stuff with that. You know, push comes to shove, if you have short, simple named shell scripts, you can just have a terminal window open and just, you know, run a couple of shell scripts. I mean, I could do it all with shell scripts if I wanted to. Excuse me. And Graham goes on to say that, so Yannick says that Streamberry is almost ready for alpha testing. So maybe, Yannick, we should do a collab on that. I have a Raspberry Pi touchscreen kit all hooked up at home. Maybe you and I should do something and sort of shine a brighter light on that good work that you've been doing. Because I think that's a fab idea. And then Graham says that they're a big fan of getting hardware that can be repurposed later on. My webcam is a Pi Zero running Show Me webcam. It's superb. Yes, so that's a project that I'll be doing here as well. I want to make, so this, you know, me waving my phone around, I want to be able to do something like that, but use a Raspberry Pi battery powered wireless camera. I want to not have a phone do it. I want a Raspberry Pi thing, and ideally my original thought was to do the overhead camera with a Raspberry Pi as well, with like the high quality camera module. But I've got a bunch of Raspberry Pi projects that I want to work on. Some camera related and a lot of retro gaming related. So Yannick says he's up there doing some kind of collab. That'd be awesome. As soon as I have something half baked. Okay, in some sort of package. Okay. All right, well let's have a chat about that in Discord, because there's a couple of ways of making some kind of package. You know, the easiest thing to do is, even if it's not particularly updatable as a sort of POC, is I could help you make a Raspberry Pi image that people can just download and stick on a card, and it comes with Streamberry on it. We may not have an update mechanism, but as an early prototype to get things tested and tried out, we could go that route. But I could help with the packaging side of things for sure. King Egypt says, Graham, there's a thing called Keybow from Pimaroni. Ooh, what's that? That sounds interesting. Keybow. Let's just find that. Okay. Rony. Okay. Ooh, check it out. Look at that. That could be the very thing. Well, not cheap though, is it? Crikey. That's quite spendy for some keys. But yeah, that's interesting. Mechanical keyboard, 12 illuminated keys. Well, that's a decent amount. You could do something sensible with 12. That's like a 12 button Stream Deck. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I hadn't heard of that before. And it has Keybo OS. Is it a hat? It's a hat by the looks of it. Okay. Yeah, okay. That could be interesting. And how many touch buttons have you got with Streamberry, Yannick? Yeah, that's a good suggestion. $52 with a Pi Zero. It's quite a lot, I feel, for a keyboard. Anyway, I haven't looked at Pimoroni in ages. I'll have to have a look through here and see if there's anything new or interesting. This is one of the projects that I've got. I have this. I have the 10-inch Picade kit sitting under the desk at home. Oh, okay. Is this a bigger one? 2040. Okay. 16. That's a bit cheaper. So that's interesting. So the 16 key one's cheaper. But is that not, that's not a hat, that's a standalone thing by the looks of it. So it's got its own micro controller on it. Yeah. Nice. There you go. There's a couple of options. Oh yeah, well yeah, I realise Mac keyboards are expensive. It was just for such a small device that seemed, for a Pi device, that felt a bit much. There we go. Cool. Don't look too carefully at Pimoroni. It's a wallet bleeder, that one. Right then. Well, thank you all very much for stopping by. I hope that was somewhat useful in terms of taking a little look at my Stream Deck and OBS setup. It's certainly helpful for me to hear some of the questions and get a firm feeling in my own mind about what I should cover when I make a dedicated video about that for YouTube. So yeah, that'll be good. I need to start scripting out some of these things. So tomorrow I'm thinking of doing another OBS thing. So once you've heard today's Ubuntu podcast and you know why I've got an Ubuntu podcast button on my Stream Deck, I'm thinking I might do the OBS related thing on stream tomorrow. So does that sound like something good to do? Creating an OBS set. It'll be another one of those sort of more or less from scratch. You know, this is how I do it. And I'll go over OBS Ninja, or Video Ninja as it's now called. So Graham, like how I'm bringing in cameras off phones or other people's webcams in this case. I'm putting a basic set together with some tessellated effects around webcams and stuff like that. So it's a sort of thing I've touched on before, but you know, for those that have not seen it, it'll be here's a multi-party, you know, stream template kind of thing. Okay, maybe I'll do that tomorrow then. You need to listen to today's episode, Graham, the big reveal. And next week's podcast as well, it discloses the real reason behind it all. I think that's the order. Today's is a hint, and then the real reason in the last one. No, there's no Christmas special. To next week's episode is the last one ever, and that will be the end. That will be the end. But you'll have to listen. You have to listen to today's and next week's. The Arch podcast. Well, again, you'll need to listen to not this week's but next week's video, and there, yeah, you'll see. Right, well look, thank you all very much for stopping by. Hopefully I'll get to speak to some of you lovely people tomorrow. I'll go over some more OBS stuff then. I'll make a new OBS set, and I might be doing that from home rather than here, because it's a complicated couple of days in terms of family movement, so I think I'll be at home tomorrow. In the meantime, thank you all very much. I get to push a button on the Stream Deck now. Although, I think that's the right button. I'm going to guess that's the right button. I'm not sure, though. I may not have the right button. We'll find out. We're going to... Let's learn together. So, hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.